Marcus wiped the grease from his hands with a worn cloth, squinting at the ancient freighter's engine bay. The Varian ship had seen better decades, maybe better centuries. Its crystalline power cores hummed with an unstable frequency that made his teeth ache, and the neural interface panels sparked every few minutes like an angry cat. He'd been working on alien tech for 15 years now, ever since the Galactic Coalition opened trade routes with Earth, but Varian engineering still puzzled him. The workshop around him was a maze of half-finished projects. Human combustion engines sat next to Zolithian plasma drives, while Korgan biomechanical parts hung from hooks like strange fruit. This was his domain, the only place in New Geneva where species barriers didn't matter. If it had moving parts, Marcus could fix it. The shop's entry chime rang with a deep, resonant tone that made the metal walls vibrate. Marcus looked up to see a figure that commanded attention without trying. The being stood nearly 8 feet tall, with midnight blue skin that seemed to absorb light. Elaborate silver markings covered his arms and chest, forming patterns that hurt to look at directly. His eyes were the color of deep space, ancient and knowing. "You are the human mechanic called Marcus Chen," the visitor said. It wasn't a question. His voice carried the weight of absolute authority, each word precisely chosen. "That's me," Marcus replied, setting down his plasma wrench. "What can I do for you, You're King Thalassan of the Varian Commonwealth," the alien completed. "I require your services for a matter of utmost delicacy." Marcus blinked. He'd heard of King Thalassan, of course. The Varian ruler controlled 17 star systems and commanded respect throughout the galaxy. What could such a being want with a small-time mechanic? "I'm honored, Your Majesty, but I mostly work on ships and vehicles. If you need royal transport fixed, I'd recommend the Coalition yards on Luna Station." The king's expression remained unreadable. "This is not about machinery, human. It concerns a living being." From behind his flowing robes, Thalassan produced a small carrier that hummed with containment fields. Inside, Marcus glimpsed something that made his breath catch. A creature no larger than his fist, covered in midnight black fur that seemed to drink in light. It had the general shape of a wolf pup, but its eyes glowed with silver fire, and tiny scales traced patterns along its limbs. "A shadowmane," Marcus whispered. He'd read about them in xenobiology texts. Ancient predators from the Varian homeworld, supposedly extinct for millennia. Indeed. This particular specimen is problematic. The king's tone suggested vast understatement. "She is the last of her kind, born from genetic samples preserved in our royal vaults. We intended to study her, to perhaps restore her species to our world." What went wrong? Everything. Thalassan's eyes flickered with something that might have been amusement. "She destroyed 3 research facilities, killed 24 of our finest scientists, and somehow learned to manipulate quantum fields despite being barely 6 months old. Our psionics cannot touch her mind, our technology cannot contain her indefinitely, and our weapons." He paused. "Let us say that conventional force is inadvisable against a creature who can phase through solid matter at will." Marcus stared at the tiny form in the carrier. As if sensing his attention, the creature looked up at him with those burning silver eyes. For a moment, he felt something brush against his thoughts, not intrusive or threatening, just curious. "Why bring her to me?" Marcus asked. "I'm not a biologist or animal trainer. Our research into human culture uncovered something fascinating," Thalassan replied. "Your species has an unusual relationship with creatures you call dogs. You domesticated wolves thousands of years ago, transforming apex predators into companions through patience and understanding rather than force or genetic manipulation. You want me to domesticate her? I want you to teach her that not all intelligent beings are threats to be eliminated." The king's voice carried genuine weariness. "She has killed every Varian who approached her with anything resembling aggression or fear. But our scans show she responds differently to humans. Your bioelectric patterns, your pheromones, something about your species calms her." Marcus looked at the pup again. She had pressed herself against the side of the carrier, still watching him with those unsettling eyes. "What happens if I say no?" "Then, she dies," Thalassan said simply. "My advisors have convinced me that execution is the only safe option." A creature this dangerous cannot be allowed to mature to full size. The casual way the king discussed murder made Marcus's jaw clench. She's just a baby. A baby that could theoretically grow large enough to tear apart battleships with her claws. Thalassin stepped closer. But, you humans have always had a strange fondness for lost causes, have you not? Your history is full of stories about redemption, second chances, the triumph of compassion over logic. And, if I agree? Then, she becomes your responsibility. You will have 1 year to prove that she can coexist peacefully with civilization. Fail, and both of you will face the consequences. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Both of us? Did you think we would allow someone who failed to control such a creature to remain free? The risk would be too great. The pup made a small sound, barely audible through the carrier's containment field. It sounded lonely. Marcus had always been a sucker for strays. His workshop was home to 3 cats, 2 dogs, and something that might have been a Rebellious space hamster. He'd never been able to turn away from an animal in need, even when common sense screamed at him to walk away. What kind of support would I have? Financial compensation sufficient to cover your needs and hers. Access to our xenobiological databases. A communication device to contact me directly if needed. Thalassin paused. But, no physical assistance. She must learn to trust you specifically, not simply accept that humans will not harm her. 1 year, Marcus repeated. 1 year. Marcus studied the tiny creature again. She had stopped pressing against the carrier's walls and was now sitting in what looked like a meditative pose, her silver eyes half-closed. Something about her posture reminded him of his old dog Rex, the German shepherd who'd been his constant companion through childhood. All right, he said finally. I'll try. Thalassin nodded as if he'd expected no other answer. A transport will deliver her things within the hour. Food synthesizers calibrated to her nutritional needs, environmental controls, medical scanners. She is quite literally irreplaceable, try not to let her die. Comforting, Marcus muttered. The king handed him the carrier, and Marcus felt its weight settle into his hands. The containment field hummed against his palms, and he could sense the creature's attention focusing on him with laser-like intensity. One final warning, Thalassin said as he turned to leave. Shadowman's bond for life. If she accepts you as pack, that connection cannot be broken. Choose your actions wisely. After the king departed, Marcus carried the carrier to his living space above the workshop. It wasn't much a small apartment with basic furnishings and windows that looked out over the spaceport, but it was home. He set the carrier on his kitchen table and began examining the release mechanism. The containment field controls were elegant variant work, responsive to touch and thought in equal measure. As his fingers traced the activation patterns, he felt the pup's attention intensify. Easy, girl, he said softly. Nobody's going to hurt you here. The containment field dissolved with a soft chime. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the pup flowed out of the carrier like liquid shadow, moving with a grace that defied her apparent age. She landed silently on the table and immediately began examining her surroundings. Up close, she was even more striking. Her fur absorbed light so completely that she seemed like a hole cut from reality, edged with silver highlights that shifted as she moved. The scales along her legs and shoulders were deep purple, so dark they were almost black. Her ears were pointed and mobile, constantly adjusting to catch sounds beyond human hearing. She looked at Marcus, and he felt that mental touch again, stronger this time, more deliberate. Not threatening, but undeniably alien. There was an intelligence behind those silver eyes that went far beyond animal cunning. So, Marcus said, settling into a chair across from her. What's your story, little one? The pup tilted her head, and Marcus could swear she was considering how to answer. Then, she opened her mouth and spoke. Hungry. Marcus nearly fell out of his chair. The voice was young, definitely female, with an odd harmonic quality that seemed to come from everywhere at once. You can talk, he said stupidly. Of course I can talk, she replied, her tone suggesting that his surprise was unreasonable. The question is whether you can listen. Before Marcus could ask what she meant by that, his doorbell chimed. The Varian delivery crew had arrived with her supplies. For the next hour, he was busy directing the installation of food processors, environmental controls, and what appeared to be a small medical bay. The pup watched everything with intense focus, occasionally making comments that showed a disturbing understanding of the technology involved. When the delivery team finally left, Marcus found himself alone with arguably the most dangerous creature in the known galaxy. She had claimed his favorite armchair and was sitting in it like a tiny empress holding court. So, she said conversationally, "When do we start planning our escape?" Escape? Marcus sat down heavily on his couch. From what? From them. From all of them. Her silver eyes blazed. They want to study me, control me, use me as a weapon. I've seen their thoughts when they look at me. They fear what I might become. Can you read minds? Not exactly. But thoughts have weight, flavor. Fear tastes like rust and copper. Hatred burns like acid. She studied him with those unsettling eyes. You taste like sadness. Old sadness, wrapped around something warm. Marcus thought about his ex-wife, about the children they'd never had, about the dreams that had died when she left him for a corporate executive on Mars. You're probably not wrong. Why did you agree to take me? You know what I am, what I could do to you. The question hung in the air between them. Marcus found himself thinking about Rex again, about the day he'd found the German Shepherd puppy abandoned in a dumpster behind his family's garage. The dog had been half dead from starvation and abuse, so feral that the animal control officers had recommended euthanasia. But Marcus's father had seen something worth saving. Because everyone deserves a chance, he said finally. Even dangerous little girls who can phase through walls. Something shifted in her expression. The predatory alertness faded, replaced by something younger and more vulnerable. The others never saw me as anything but a problem to be solved or a weapon to be wielded. Well, you're not a weapon here. You're just. Marcus paused, realizing he didn't even know her name. What should I call you? The Varians named me Subject 17. Very creative. Her voice carried bitter amusement. What do humans call their pack members? Usually something that fits their personality. What do you like? What makes you happy? The question seemed to stump her. She sat quietly for several minutes, her ears drooping slightly. I don't know. I've never been asked that before. Then, we'll figure it out together. In the meantime, how about Luna? You've got those silver eyes, and you move like moonlight. Luna, she repeated, testing the sound. Yes. I like that. The first few days established a routine. Luna was remarkably self-sufficient for someone barely 6 months old. She could operate the food synthesizers, understood basic hygiene, and showed an uncanny grasp of human technology. But she also displayed behaviors that reminded Marcus constantly of what she really was. She never slept, or if she did, Marcus never caught her at it. She moved through the apartment like a ghost, her footsteps making no sound even on the metal floors. More than once, he turned to find her watching him work with those burning eyes, studying his every movement. The first real test came on the third day. Marcus was replacing the stabilizer unit on a Korgan freighter when he heard screaming from the front of the shop. He rushed out to find 3 Coalition security officers backing away from Luna, who stood in the middle of the workspace with her fur standing on end. Stand down, officers, Marcus called out, keeping his voice calm. She's with me. That thing attacked us, the lead officer gasped. He was human, Marcus noted with disappointment. We came to check on reports of illegal bioweapons, and it just appeared out of nowhere. She's not a weapon, Marcus said firmly. She's registered with the Colonial Authority as a research subject under my care. Luna had grown larger since arriving, she now stood about knee-high to Marcus, but she was still obviously young. That didn't make her any less intimidating when she wanted to be. Her silver eyes blazed with inner fire, and the air around her seemed to shimmer with barely contained energy. Easy, Luna, Marcus said softly. They're just doing their jobs. They came here with fear and aggression, Luna replied, her voice carrying that strange harmonic quality that made the security officers flinch. They see me as a monster to be caged or destroyed. That's not your choice to make, Marcus told her. If you hurt them, you prove them right. The standoff stretched for several heartbeats. Marcus could see Luna wrestling with conflicting impulses, her instincts screaming at her to eliminate threats, while whatever trust she'd begun to place in him urged restraint. Finally, she stepped back. The energy around her faded, and her posture shifted from threatening to merely alert. I will not harm them unless they harm you, she said. The security officers left shortly after, but not before filing a formal complaint about inadequate containment of dangerous alien species. Marcus spent the rest of the day dealing with bureaucratic fallout and trying to explain to his insurance company why his workshop now housed what they classified as a Class 7 extinction-level biological hazard. That evening, as they sat in his living room, Luna had claimed the armchair permanently. She asked him a question that caught him off guard. Why didn't you let me kill them? Because killing them would have been wrong, Marcus replied automatically. They would have killed me given the chance. I could smell it on them, the desire to see me destroyed. Probably. But, responding to fear with violence only creates more fear. The Varian scientists feared me too. I killed them anyway. And, how did that work out? Marcus asked. Did it make you safer? Did it get you what you wanted? Luna was quiet for a long moment. No. It made everything worse. Each death only proved that I was the monster they believed me to be. Exactly. Violence is easy, it's the first solution most predators reach for. But, it's almost never the best solution. Then, what is? Understanding. Communication. Finding common ground. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Your people domesticated other species, right? How did they do it? Through genetic manipulation and neural conditioning. We rewrote their brains until they served our purposes. And, did those species choose to serve you, or were they forced? Forced, obviously. Choice implies the possibility of refusal. Marcus nodded. And, how loyal were they really? How much did they actually care about Varian welfare versus their own survival? Luna's ears flicked with what might have been realization. Not very loyal at all. When the plague wars came, most of our servant species either fled or joined our enemies. Humans did it differently. We didn't force dogs to serve us, we convinced them that serving us was in their best interest too. We gave them food, shelter, protection, and companionship. In return, they gave us loyalty, protection, and companionship. Both species benefited. A true partnership, Luna mused. Not dominance. Right. And, that partnership was so strong that dogs chose to follow humans across the galaxy when we left Earth. Luna curled up in the chair, her tail wrapping around her like a blanket. Is that what you're trying to do with me? Create a partnership? I'm trying to give you choices you've never had before, Marcus said. The choice to trust instead of fear. The choice to protect instead of destroy. The choice to be something other than what others expect you to be. And, if I choose to leave? To disappear into space and find my own way? Marcus felt a stab of loss at the thought, but kept his voice steady. Then, I'd help you do it safely. You're not my prisoner, Luna. You're my guest, and, hopefully my friend. Something in her expression shifted, became younger and more vulnerable than he'd seen before. I've never had a friend. Well, you've got one now. The weeks that followed brought new challenges. Luna grew rapidly, both physically and mentally. By the end of the first month, she stood waist-high to Marcus and had begun manifesting abilities that defied conventional understanding of physics. She could phase through solid matter at will, becoming incorporeal for short periods before snapping back to physical reality. Her claws could cut through any material Marcus had tested, including Varian quantum steel. Most unsettling of all, she seemed to be developing some form of precognition. She would often react to events several seconds before they actually occurred. But, alongside her growing power came growing emotional complexity. She began asking questions that showed she was grappling with concepts of morality, identity, and purpose. She wanted to understand not just how the universe worked, but why it worked the way it did. "Do you think I'm evil?" she asked one evening as they sat watching the ships come and go from the spaceport. "Evil is a choice," Marcus replied. "You can't be born evil any more than you can be born good. What matters is what you decide to do with the power you have. I have killed before." "Yes, but you were scared and alone and defending yourself. That's different from choosing to hurt someone because you enjoy their pain. The Varian records say my species was created as weapons. That we were bred for violence and destruction." Marcus turned to look at her. She had grown beautiful in an alien way. Her midnight fur now showed subtle patterns of silver and purple, and her eyes had deepened from burning silver to something that reminded him of starlight. "Maybe that's how you started, but it's not who you have to be. Humans were pretty violent once too. We spent thousands of years killing each other over resources, territory, ideology. But we changed. We chose to be better." "How?" "Slowly. One person at a time, deciding that there had to be a better way. One friendship at a time, proving that cooperation was stronger than conflict." Luna was quiet for several minutes, watching a massive Centauri trade ship settle onto a distant landing pad. "I've been thinking about names," she said eventually. "Names? Not just mine. Yours too." She looked at him with those starlight eyes. "What does Marcus mean?" "It's from an ancient human language. It means warlike or martial. Kind of ironic, considering." "Ironic how?" "Because you're about the least warlike person I know. You fix things instead of breaking them. You heal instead of harm. You choose understanding over conflict." Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks. "I'm not that noble. I've made plenty of mistakes, lost my temper more times than I care to admit. But you try to be better. Every day, you choose to be better than you were before." Luna stood and moved to the window, her reflection barely visible in the glass. "I want to be better too. But I don't know how to start." "You already have started," Marcus told her. "Every time you choose not to hurt someone who fears you, every time you ask a question instead of making an assumption, every time you trust instead of attack, you're choosing to be better." "Is it enough?" "It's a beginning." The second month brought visitors. Not the hostile kind this time, but curious scientists, diplomats, and journalists who had heard about the human mechanic training as Shadowmane. King Thalassin had apparently been less discreet about the arrangement than Marcus had hoped. Dr. Elena Vasquez was the first to arrive. She was a xenobiologist from the Coalition Science Council, a small woman with sharp eyes and the kind of intense focus that made Luna nervous. "I'm not here to study her," Dr. Vasquez assured Marcus after Luna had retreated to the apartment upstairs. "I'm here to help if I can. The Shadowmane species represents a crucial gap in our understanding of Varian evolutionary history." "She's not a research subject," Marcus said firmly. "I understand that. But she might have questions about her own nature that I could help answer. Identity is important, especially for sapient beings trying to find their place in the universe." Luna eventually agreed to meet with Dr. Vasquez, but only with Marcus present. The conversation that followed was enlightening for all of them. "Your species wasn't originally created as weapons," the scientist explained, showing Luna holographic displays of genetic data. "The earliest Shadowmane fossils show creatures adapted for complex social behaviors, high intelligence, and environmental manipulation. The weapon modifications came later, probably during the Varian Empire's expansionist period." "So what was I supposed to be?" Luna asked. "Guardians, most likely. Partners to the Varian people, protecting their homes and families through intelligence rather than brute force. Your ability to phase between dimensions would have made you excellent at detecting threats that others couldn't perceive." Marcus watched Luna process this information. The idea that she was meant to be a protector rather than a destroyer clearly resonated with her. "What happened to us? Why did we go extinct?" Dr. Vasquez's expression grew somber. "The military modifications made your people unstable. The same genetic changes that enhanced your combat abilities also shortened your lifespans and reduced your fertility. By the time the Varians realized what they'd done, it was too late to reverse the damage. So I'm alone because my creators were too proud to accept partners, they wanted slaves instead. Yes. I'm sorry. Luna was quiet for a long time after Dr. Vasquez left. That evening, she asked Marcus something that broke his heart. Will you teach me how to be a guardian instead of a weapon? You're already learning, he told her. Every day you're here, you're learning to protect instead of destroy. I want to do more than just not hurt people. I want to help them, the way you help me. Marcus looked at her, really looked. She now stood nearly as tall as his chest, her form lean and powerful but somehow graceful. Her eyes held depths of intelligence and compassion that would have been impossible in the frightened creature King Thalassin had brought him months earlier. Then, that's what we'll do, he said. We'll figure out how to make the universe a little bit better, one day at a time. As the third month began, Marcus realized that Luna had become more than just a responsibility or even a friend. She had become family. And family, he'd learned long ago, was worth protecting at any cost. The morning that changed everything started like any other. Marcus was calibrating a Terran shuttle's navigation system while Luna practiced what she called dimensional stepping in the workshop's back area. She'd grown considerably over the past 3 months, now standing shoulder-high to Marcus with a lean, powerful build that spoke of predatory grace. Her midnight fur had developed intricate silver patterns that shifted like starlight when she moved, and her eyes had deepened to a color that reminded him of the space between stars. The first sign of trouble was Luna's sudden stillness. She froze in the middle of a phase shift exercise, her entire body going rigid as her ears swiveled toward the front entrance. Marcus, she said quietly, her voice carrying that harmonic quality that meant she was agitated, we have a problem. Before he could ask what kind of problem, the shop's main door exploded inward. The reinforced metal crumpled like paper as figures in sleek combat armor poured through the opening. Their weapons were already drawn, exotic energy signatures that made the air taste of copper and ozone. Terran citizen Marcus Chen, the lead figure, announced through a voice modulator, "You are harboring a classified biological weapon in violation of Galactic Coalition Security Statute 77 Alpha. Surrender the creature immediately." Marcus stepped protectively in front of Luna, even though he knew the gesture was probably pointless. She's registered with the Colonial Authority. King Thalassin himself authorized her placement. The Varian King's authority does not supersede Coalition security protocols, the figure replied. Recent intelligence indicates the creature has developed beyond acceptable parameters. It must be contained. Marcus felt Luna move behind him, her presence becoming somehow more substantial and threatening despite her silence. What intelligence? Classified. Stand aside, citizen. No. The word came from Luna, spoken with a quiet finality that made the temperature in the workshop seem to drop several degrees. She stepped out from behind Marcus, and the armored figures immediately shifted their weapons toward her. You will not harm him, Luna continued, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in the metal walls. And you will not take me. The creature will submit to containment or face termination, the lead figure stated. Marcus watched Luna's expression change. The young being who asked thoughtful questions about morality and purpose disappeared, replaced by something ancient and dangerous. Her silver markings began to glow with inner light, and the air around her started to shimmer. Luna, don't, Marcus said urgently. This is exactly what they want, proof that you're dangerous. They came here to kill or cage me, Luna replied, never taking her eyes off the intruders. I will not go quietly to either fate. The standoff stretched for several heartbeats. Marcus could see the tactical displays on the soldiers' armor flickering as they tried to get targeting locks on Luna, but her dimensional nature seemed to confuse their systems. Then, everything happened at once. The soldiers opened fire with weapons that crackled with quantum energy. Luna simply wasn't there anymore, her form becoming translucent as the beams passed harmlessly through her. She reappeared behind the nearest soldier, her claws extending into blade-like extensions that could cut through any material Marcus had ever tested. But, instead of striking, she hesitated. In that moment of hesitation, one of the soldiers managed to tag her with some kind of neural disruptor. Luna cried out, a sound that combined human pain with something utterly alien, and collapsed to her knees. Marcus moved without thinking, grabbing a plasma wrench and swinging it at the soldier's helmet. The tool shattered against the armor, but the distraction was enough for Luna to recover. She flowed upward like liquid shadow, but again stopped short of actually harming her attackers. "I won't prove them right," she gasped, fighting against whatever the neural disruptor was doing to her. "I won't be the monster they think I am." The restraint cost her. More neural disruptors found their mark, and Luna's form began to flicker between physical and ethereal states as her control slipped. Marcus watched in horror as the being who had become like a daughter to him was slowly brought down by weapons designed specifically for her physiology. That's when the cavalry arrived. The workshop's rear entrance, which Marcus had forgotten even existed, burst open to reveal King Thalassin flanked by a squad of Varian royal guards. Their weapons were different from the Coalition gear, organic-looking things that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. "This facility is under Varian diplomatic protection," Thalassin announced, his voice carrying absolute authority. "Withdraw immediately." "The Varian king has no jurisdiction here," the coalition leader replied, but Marcus noticed his squad had stopped firing. "This facility was designated as a Varian research station 6 months ago," Thalassin said calmly. "The human Marcus Chen is acting as our appointed custodian. Any hostile action against him or his charge constitutes an act of war against the Varian Commonwealth." The coalition soldiers exchanged glances. Starting a war over one creature, no matter how potentially dangerous, was not something they were authorized to do. "This isn't over," the leader said finally. "The Coalition Science Council will not allow a weapon of mass destruction to remain in civilian hands." "The creature is not a weapon," Thalassin replied. "She is a citizen of the Varian Commonwealth, with all the rights and protections that status entails." After the coalition forces withdrew, Luna struggled to her feet with Marcus's help. The neural disruptors had left her weak and disoriented, her usual grace replaced by stumbling uncertainty. "Why?" she asked Thalassin. "Why protect me? Your people are the ones who made me what I am." "Because you have become something my people never imagined," the king replied. "We created you to be a weapon, but you chose to be a guardian instead. That choice makes you more valuable than any weapon could ever be." Marcus helped Luna to a chair, noting how she unconsciously leaned into his touch. The trust she'd developed over the past months was still there, even after facing down trained killers. "They'll be back," Marcus said. "The coalition won't give up easily." "No, they won't," Thalassin agreed. "Which is why I'm here with a proposition." Over the next hour, the Varian king outlined a plan that would change everything. The Varian Commonwealth was facing increasing pressure from hostile alien species along their outer borders. Their traditional military forces were proving inadequate against enemies who used unconventional tactics and possessed technologies the Varians didn't understand. "We need scouts," Thalassin explained. "Beings capable of moving unseen through enemy territory, gathering intelligence, and, if necessary, eliminating specific high-value targets. Your unique abilities make you ideally suited for such work." "You're asking her to become an assassin," Marcus said flatly. "I'm asking her to become what she was always meant to be, a protector of the innocent," Thalassin replied. "The enemies we face show no mercy to civilians. They destroy entire worlds to make strategic points." Luna had been listening quietly, her starlight eyes reflecting thoughts Marcus couldn't read. What would this involve exactly? Training first. Learning to use your abilities for infiltration and reconnaissance rather than direct combat. Understanding military tactics, xenopsychology, advanced technology. Thalassin paused. And learning to work with a partner. Partner? Marcus asked. The human designation is handler, I believe. Someone to provide technological support, coordinate missions, and serve as liaison with command structures. The king's dark eyes fixed on Marcus. We would prefer someone she already trusts. Marcus felt his world tilt. You're asking me to become a spy. I'm asking you to continue doing what you've been doing, helping her grow into her potential while keeping her grounded in the values that make her more than just a weapon. And, if we refuse? Then, you'll spend the rest of your lives running from coalition forces who will never stop trying to capture or kill her. They've classified her as an extinction-level threat. That designation doesn't just disappear. Luna stood up, steadier now as the effects of the neural disruptors wore off. I need time to think. Of course. But, don't take too long. Our intelligence suggests the coalition is preparing a more permanent solution to what they see as the Luna problem. After Thalassan left, Marcus and Luna sat in the workshop's quiet aftermath. Scorch marks on the walls and twisted metal debris served as reminders of how quickly their peaceful existence had shattered. I'm tired of running, Luna said finally. Tired of hiding what I am, tired of pretending to be something harmless. You're not pretending. You are something more than what they made you to be. But, I'm still what they made me to be, at least partly. She held up her hand, extending claws that gleamed like polished obsidian. These aren't just for show, Marcus. I can feel the genetic programming in my cells, pushing me toward violence and dominance. Every day I choose to be different is a struggle against my own nature. Then, why keep struggling? Luna looked at him with those impossible eyes. Because you believe I can be better. Because you've shown me what it means to choose compassion over strength, understanding over fear. She was quiet for a moment. But, maybe it's time to find a middle path. Meaning? Maybe I can be what I was made to be, a weapon, but use that nature to protect instead of conquer. Marcus thought about the coalition soldiers who had invaded his workshop, about the casual way they'd discussed terminating a sentient being who had never actually harmed anyone. He thought about King Thalassan's warnings about extinction-level threats along the Varian borders, about civilians dying because conventional forces couldn't stop unconventional enemies. It's your choice, he said finally. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. Even if it means giving up your life here? Your workshop, your independence? Marcus looked around the space that had been his home for 15 years. The half-finished projects, the familiar tools, the comfortable routine of solving mechanical problems with elegant solutions. It was a good life, but it was a small one. This place was just where I fixed things, he said. But, your family. Family doesn't abandon each other when things get difficult. Luna's expression softened. You would really give all this up for me? In a heartbeat. 2 days later, a Varian transport arrived to collect them. Marcus had spent the intervening time arranging for his workshop to be managed by his assistant, a gruff Centauri engineer who grumbled about humans and their emotional attachments but secretly had a soft spot for strays. The transport was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. It was grown rather than built, its hull a seamless fusion of organic and technological elements that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. The interior was equally impressive, with spaces that seemed to adjust themselves to their occupants' needs. Welcome aboard the Whispered Dream, said their escort, a tall Varian with intricate silver markings that indicated high rank. I am Commander Zephyrin. I'll be overseeing your initial training. Luna's training began immediately. The Varian military had developed specialized programs that took advantage of her unique abilities while teaching her to channel her predatory instincts in constructive directions. She learned to move unseen through enemy installations, to gather intelligence without leaving traces, to disable technology and personnel with surgical precision. But, the training that mattered most to Marcus was psychological. Luna worked with Varian therapists who helped her understand and accept the dual nature of her genetics, the weapon aspects she'd inherited and the guardian aspects she'd chosen to develop. You are not fighting your nature, one therapist explained. You are integrating it. Learning to be a protector who can be dangerous when protection requires danger. Marcus's own training focused on the technological and tactical support that Luna would need in the field. He learned to operate Varian reconnaissance equipment, to coordinate with military command structures, and to provide real-time analysis of alien technologies and environments. But, perhaps more importantly, he learned to be Luna's anchor to her ethical center. In situations where the mission parameters might conflict with her moral principles, he would be the voice reminding her of who she had chosen to be. The first test came sooner than either of them expected. Intelligence had located a slave trading operation on the outer rim world of Kythera. The traders were using advanced cloaking technology to hide their facilities, making conventional military intervention impossible. But they had one weakness: their operation relied on a centralized control system that could theoretically be disabled by someone capable of infiltrating their heavily guarded compound.
The mission parameters are specific, Commander Zephyrin explained as their ship approached the target system.
Disable the control systems, gather intelligence on the trading network, and withdraw without engaging the enemy directly unless absolutely necessary.
What about the slaves? Luna asked. Coalition forces will arrive to liberate them once the facility's defenses are down.
Your job is reconnaissance and sabotage, not rescue.
Marcus could see the conflict in Luna's expression.
Every instinct she developed over the past months screamed at her to protect the innocent directly, but her training emphasized the importance of following mission parameters. Sometimes helping people means playing a supporting role, he reminded her quietly. You can't save everyone personally, but you can make it possible for others to save them.
The infiltration itself went flawlessly.
Luna's ability to phase through solid matter made bypassing security systems almost trivial, while her enhanced senses allowed her to map the facility's layout with perfect accuracy. Marcus coordinated from their concealed ship, providing technical support and monitoring communications. But everything went wrong when they discovered what the slavers were really doing.
The facility wasn't just holding captured aliens for sale. It was experimenting on them, trying to develop new biological weapons by combining genetic material from different species.
The laboratory sections were filled with creatures that had been tortured and modified beyond recognition, many of them still conscious and aware of their suffering.
We have to help them, Luna's voice crackled through the comm system. Stick to the mission parameters, Marcus replied, though his own heart was breaking at the intelligence feeds Luna was transmitting. Disable the control systems and get out. Coalition forces will handle the rest. The Coalition forces are 3 hours away.
These beings will be dead in 30 minutes, the slavers are purging evidence. Marcus watched the tactical displays with growing horror. Luna was right, the facility's personnel were beginning systematic elimination of their test subjects.
Sticking to mission parameters would mean leaving dozens of innocent beings to die. Luna, you can't save them all.
The facility has hundreds of guards, automated defenses, and backup systems. I'm not planning to fight hundreds of guards, Luna replied.
I'm planning to turn their own systems against them.
What followed was perhaps the most elegant piece of sabotage Marcus had ever witnessed.
Instead of simply disabling the control systems, Luna began reprogramming them. Security doors locked down sections of the facility, trapping guards in non-critical areas. Automated defense systems turned on their operators.
Life support systems in the laboratory areas switched to emergency protocols, protecting the test subjects while flooding the corridors with sedative gases.
Within 20 minutes, the entire facility was under Luna's control.
She had neutralized the threat without killing a single being, using their own technology to transform a weapon of oppression into a tool of liberation.
How? Marcus asked as Luna made her way back to their extraction point.
I listened to the system's data patterns until I understood their language, she replied. Every piece of technology has a kind of consciousness, not sapient, but aware.
I asked them to help protect the innocent instead of harming them. You asked the machines? Everything responds to compassion if you speak its language correctly.
When the Coalition rescue forces arrived, they found a facility full of unconscious guards and liberated prisoners. The intelligence Luna had gathered led to the dismantling of a slave trading network that spanned 17 star systems. But, more importantly, it proved that Luna had found her true calling. She wasn't just a weapon that had learned restraint, she was a protector who could be dangerous when protection required danger, but who always chose the path that preserved the most life and dignity. Over the following months, Marcus and Luna became the most effective intelligence team in the Varian Commonwealth. Their missions took them to alien worlds at the galaxy's edge, into the heart of enemy installations, and face-to-face with threats that conventional military forces couldn't handle. But every mission reinforced the same lesson: Luna's greatest strength wasn't her claws or her ability to phase through matter. It was her capacity for understanding, for finding solutions that protected the innocent without becoming what she fought against. And Marcus discovered that his own greatest strength wasn't his technical knowledge or his tactical skills. It was his ability to remind Luna, in moments of crisis, of who she had chosen to be. They were family, not bound by genetics or species, but by choice and trust and the daily decision to be better than they had been the day before. The universe was a dangerous place, full of beings who chose fear over understanding, domination over cooperation. But it was also a place where a human mechanic and an alien predator could choose to protect the innocent, one mission at a time. As their ship jumped to hyperspace toward their next assignment, Marcus reflected on how much had changed since King Thalassin had walked into his workshop with a problematic creature in a containment field. That creature had become Luna, protector of the innocent, guardian of the lost, and the closest thing to a daughter Marcus would ever have. He wouldn't trade her for anything in the universe. The emergency klaxon aboard the Whispered Dream cut through Marcus's sleep like a plasma cutter through hull plating. He rolled out of his bunk, muscle memory from months of covert operations taking over as he reached for his tactical gear. In the bunk across from his, Luna was already awake, her starlight eyes reflecting the ship's emergency lighting. "What's the situation?" Marcus asked as they made their way to the command center. "Priority Alpha transmission from King Thalassin himself," Commander Zephyrin replied, her silver markings pulsing with agitation. "The situation is unprecedented." The main display showed a star chart of the galaxy's outer rim, specifically the contested zone where Varian space bordered the territory of something called the Void Collective. Marcus had heard whispers about them, an alien species that consumed entire worlds, leaving nothing but empty space in their wake. "The Collective has broken through our outer defenses," Zephyrin continued. "They're not just taking territory this time. They're heading straight for inhabited systems." Luna studied the tactical display with the kind of intense focus she usually reserved for complex infiltration problems. "How many worlds are in their projected path?" 17 systems. Approximately 40 billion sapient beings. The number was so large it almost lost meaning. Marcus tried to wrap his mind around 40 billion individuals, each with their own hopes, dreams, families, futures, all threatened by an enemy that treated entire civilizations as consumable resources. "What's the fleet response?" Luna asked. "Every available Varian ship is being mobilized, along with coalition reinforcements," Zephyrin replied. "But our estimates show they'll arrive too late to prevent the loss of at least 7 systems." "So what's our mission?" Marcus had learned to recognize the look in Luna's eyes when she was already planning something dangerous. "There isn't one. Command wants you extracted to a safe distance while the fleet engages." "No." Luna's voice carried that harmonic quality that meant she'd already made a decision. 40 billion people don't get to die because it's too dangerous for us to help." Marcus sighed. He'd known this moment would come eventually, the mission where Luna's protective instincts would override tactical caution. "What are you thinking?" "The Void Collective's advance fleet is using some kind of dimensional weapon to punch holes in space-time itself," Luna said, manipulating the holographic display to show enemy formations. "They create tiers in reality that pull entire planets into somewhere else." "Somewhere else?" Marcus asked. "Another dimension, another universe, we don't know." "But the energy signatures suggest the weapon system requires massive computational power to target and coordinate the dimensional tiers." Zephyrin's eyes widened as she realized what Luna was suggesting. "You want to infiltrate their command ship?" "I want to turn their own weapon against them," Luna replied. "If I can access their targeting systems, I can redirect the dimensional tiers to consume their own fleet instead of our worlds." The plan was insane. The Void Collective's command ship was the size of a small moon, protected by energy shields that could withstand planetary bombardment and filled with enemies whose biology was so alien that standard weapons couldn't reliably affect them. "Even if you could reach their control systems," Marcus said, "how do you plan to understand technology that's completely outside our experience?" Luna smiled, and there was something almost predatory in the expression, but predatory in the way a guardian protects its young, not in the way a predator stalks prey. "Remember what I told you about machines having their own kind of consciousness? That applies even to alien machines. I just need to learn their language." The infiltration began 12 hours later. Marcus coordinated from a stealth ship hidden in a debris field, watching through Luna's eyes as she phased through the outer hull of the collective's command vessel.
The interior was like nothing in any database.
The corridors were organic, pulsing with bioluminescent veins that carried information instead of blood. The air itself seemed alive, thick with microscopic entities that formed shifting patterns of light and shadow. "I'm reading massive psionic activity," Marcus reported. "The entire ship appears to be a single organism." "It's more than that," Luna's voice crackled through the comm system, distorted by the ship's alien architecture. "It's a collective consciousness made physical. Every part of it is connected to every other part." That made the mission both easier and, impossibly, more difficult. Easier because once Luna found the central consciousness, she could access all the ship's systems simultaneously. More difficult because the ship would be aware of her presence the moment she made contact. "Luna, if this thing is truly a collective consciousness, it might be able to overwrite your personality when you interface with it. You could lose yourself."
"Then, you'll have to remind me who I am," Luna replied. "Just like you've been doing for the past year."
Marcus watched through her sensor feed as Luna made her way deeper into the ship. The void collective entities she passed were unlike anything in the xenobiological databases, towering figures that seemed to be made of crystallized shadow, their forms shifting between dimensions as they moved.
But they didn't detect her.
Luna's ability to exist partially outside normal spacetime made her effectively invisible to beings who perceived reality through conventional means. The ship's central consciousness was housed in a chamber that defied geometric logic. The space was larger inside than outside, with surfaces that curved through dimensions Marcus couldn't name. At the center floated a mass of neural tissue the size of a city block, crackling with energies that made reality itself seem unstable.
"I'm going to make contact," Luna said.
"Luna, wait," but she was already reaching out, her consciousness touching the alien mind that controlled the dimensional weapon. The contact was like watching two universes collide. Marcus's instruments went haywire as exotic energies flooded the chamber. Through the chaos, he could hear Luna's voice, but it was changing, becoming layered with harmonics that spoke of vast, alien thoughts. "I can see everything," Luna said, her words carrying the weight of the collective consciousness.
"Every world they've consumed, every civilization they've destroyed. They don't see other species as sapient beings.
To them, we're just patterns in spacetime to be reorganized. Luna, stay focused on the mission.
Don't let it pull you in. It's trying to understand what I am.
It's never encountered a consciousness that can exist partially outside dimensional space."
Luna's voice was becoming more alien with each word. "It's curious." That was the moment everything changed.
Instead of trying to resist the collective consciousness, Luna began communicating with it. Not through words or images, but through pure concept transfer, showing it memories of her own transformation from weapon to guardian, of Marcus teaching her to choose compassion over violence, of the civilizations they'd saved working together.
"What are you doing?" Marcus asked.
"Teaching," Luna replied, her voice now a harmonious blend of human and alien tones. "This collective has never known anything but consumption because it's never encountered anything worth preserving. It's been alone in the universe for so long that it forgot other forms of consciousness could exist."
The dimensional weapon powered down.
Across 17 star systems, the tiers in spacetime began sealing themselves. But, more importantly, the Void Collective's entire fleet stopped its advance. "You're showing it that cooperation is possible," Marcus realized.
"I'm showing it that it doesn't have to be alone anymore."
The communication lasted for hours. Marcus watched as Luna shared everything she'd learned about interspecies cooperation, about the beauty of diverse civilizations working together, about the difference between existing and truly living. In return, the collective shared its own story: eons of isolation in the void between galaxies, the desperate hunger for connection that had driven it to consume other civilizations in a futile attempt to understand them, the growing emptiness that came from destroying the very things it sought to comprehend. When Luna finally withdrew from the neural interface, her own consciousness intact but permanently changed, the entire Varian fleet was standing down. The Void Collective had not only ceased its attack but was actively helping to repair the damage its dimensional weapons had caused.
"Status report?" Marcus asked as Luna made her way back through the ship's organic corridors.
"The Collective has agreed to establish formal diplomatic contact with the Galactic Coalition," Luna replied, her voice still carrying subtle alien harmonics that would probably never fade completely.
They want to learn how to participate in galactic civilization instead of consuming it. And, you? Are you still, you? Luna was quiet for a moment. I'm more me than I've ever been. The collective helped me understand something important. I'm not the last of my kind. I'm the first of something new. The extraction went smoothly.
Within days, the galaxy's greatest existential threat had become its newest potential ally. Diplomatic teams were scrambling to establish communication protocols with the Void Collective, while xenobiologists worked to understand beings that existed partially outside normal spacetime. But, for Marcus, the most important moment came when they were finally alone in Luna's quarters aboard the Whispered Dream. I thought I'd lost you in there, he admitted. You did, for a while, Luna replied, curling up in what had become her favorite spot, a specially designed chair that accommodated her unique physiology. When I first touched the collective's consciousness, I could feel myself dissolving into it. 40 billion minds, all thinking the same thoughts, all sharing the same hunger.
What brought you back? You did. In that moment when I was about to lose myself, I remembered something you told me months ago, that identity isn't about what you are, it's about who you choose to be. The collective had forgotten how to choose. It had become so focused on hunger and need that it lost track of want and hope. Marcus settled into his own chair, feeling the weight of exhaustion that came after missions where the stakes were measured in billions of lives. So what happens now? Now we help them remember what it means to be individuals within a community instead of just components of a machine. Luna's starlight eyes reflected something Marcus had never seen before, not just wisdom, but a deep sense of purpose that went beyond protecting the innocent. The collective has agreed to let some of its members experience individual consciousness. They want to learn what we learned, how to be part of something larger without losing what makes each of us unique. You're talking about teaching an entire species to become individuals. We're talking about helping them discover they already are individuals. They just forgot how to recognize it. Over the following months, Marcus watched Luna grow into something unprecedented in galactic history. She became not just a guardian of the innocent, but a bridge between radically different forms of consciousness. Her unique nature, existing partially outside normal spacetime while maintaining strong individual identity, made her the perfect translator between species that experienced reality in fundamentally different ways. The Void Collective's integration into galactic civilization was slow and, sometimes, difficult. Beings accustomed to consuming entire worlds had to learn concepts like property rights, individual autonomy, and cultural preservation. But they learned, guided by Luna's patient teaching and the example of the diverse civilizations that welcomed them. Marcus found his own role evolving as well. He was no longer just Luna's handler or technical support, he had become something like an ambassador himself, helping other species understand how humans approached the seemingly impossible task of cooperation between radically different forms of life. It all comes back to what you taught me in the beginning, Luna said one evening as they watched a group of young Void Collective entities learning to play games with Coalition children. Everyone deserves a chance to be better than what others expect them to be. Even species that consume entire civilizations? Especially them. They were starving not for food or energy, but for connection, for understanding, for the chance to be part of something beautiful instead of just surviving in emptiness. Marcus watched a young collective entity awkwardly but determinedly help a human child retrieve a ball that had rolled too far away. The gesture was simple, almost meaningless in the larger scope of galactic politics. But it represented something profound, the choice to help instead of harm, to preserve instead of consume, to build instead of destroy. I keep thinking about King Thalassan, Marcus said. When he brought you to me, he said Shadowman's bond for life. That once you accepted someone as pack, the connection couldn't be broken. He was right, Luna replied. But he didn't understand the full implications. It's not just that I bonded with you, I learned how to bond with others. And I taught the collective the same thing. So now we have an entire species learning to form emotional attachments? We have an entire species learning what it means to love something more than they love themselves. Luna's expression grew thoughtful. The funny thing is, that's exactly what my original creators intended. They wanted to build beings capable of absolute loyalty, perfect dedication to protecting what mattered most. They just didn't realize that such dedication required the capacity for genuine care. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus.
The Variants had succeeded in their original goal beyond their wildest dreams. They'd created the ultimate guardian not through genetic programming or neural conditioning, but by allowing someone capable of infinite loyalty to choose what deserved that loyalty. And Luna had chosen not just Marcus, not just the innocent beings they'd saved on dozens of missions, but the entire concept of conscious beings learning to coexist despite their differences. Years passed. Marcus's hair turned gray, then white. His hands, once steady enough to calibrate the most sensitive machinery, began to show the tremor of age. But Luna remained constant, ageless in the way of her species, but growing in wisdom and compassion with each passing day. They still took missions when the universe needed them. But, increasingly, those missions involved teaching rather than fighting, building bridges between species that seemed too different to ever understand each other.
Do you ever regret it? Marcus asked one day as they prepared for another diplomatic assignment. Giving up the chance for a normal life, whatever that might have meant for someone like you? Luna considered the question seriously. I think about it sometimes.
What it would have been like to be what the Varians intended, a perfect weapon, simple and direct and untroubled by moral complexity. She smiled, and the expression transformed her predatory features into something warm and deeply human.
Then, I remember that weapons don't get to have families.
They don't get to watch others grow and learn and become more than anyone expected them to be. They don't get to be loved, or to love in return.
No regrets then?
Only one, Luna said. I regret that it took so long for someone to believe I could be more than what I was made to be. I wonder how many others are out there, beings created for purposes they've outgrown, species defined by their worst moments instead of their best possibilities, individuals who've never been given the chance to choose who they want to become. Marcus looked at his daughter, not by genetics but by choice, not by design but by love, and realized that their work was far from over. The universe was full of lost beings who needed to be shown that they could be more than their origins suggested. Then, we'd better get back to work, he said. Luna's smile widened, showing teeth that could tear through quantum steel but had learned to be gentle with fragile things. Yes, she said. We'd better. As their ship jumped to hyperspace toward their next assignment, Marcus reflected on the strange path that had brought them to this point. A king's desperate gamble, a mechanic's willingness to see potential instead of threat, and a creature designed for destruction who had chosen to become something unprecedented. The universe was vast and, often cruel, full of beings who chose fear over understanding, domination over cooperation. But it was also a place where love could triumph over programming, where individuals could transcend their origins, and where families could form across the boundaries of species and biology. Marcus had spent his life fixing broken things. He'd never imagined that the most important repair job of his career would be helping someone fix herself, or that in the process, she would fix him too. Luna was no longer the rebellious alien wolf pup that King Thalassan had brought to his workshop. She had become something that no one had imagined possible, a bridge between worlds, a guardian of the lost, and proof that with enough patience and love, anyone could choose to become more than they were designed to be. And that, Marcus thought as he watched Luna review the files for their next mission, was perhaps the most human thing of all.